All right, welcome to lesson 3 for unit 2. So last lesson we talked about photosynthesis. Now we are going to talk about cellular respiration. So learning goal here is that you'll be able to describe the steps of cellular respiration and its importance to plant life. So for our introduction, key question: how do plants utilize the sugars that they create with photosynthesis? So we know that plants are autotrophs, which means they can create their own food, basically, but how are they using that food that they create during photosynthesis? So we're going to talk about cellular respiration, which the most simple definition is it's the method by which plants release stored energy from glucose molecules. So for the process, our more in-depth definition of cellular respiration is that it's the metabolic process by which cells break down glucose and other organic molecules to generate adenosine triphosphate, which we'll just call ATP, which is the primary energy currency of cells. So when cells are going through processes that require energy, usually the token that they're using is going to be ATP, which is what we get from cellular respiration. And the equation is C6H12O6 plus 6 oxygen molecules leads to or creates 6 carbon dioxide molecules, 6 water molecules, and ATP. Now, if you remember from our last lesson when we looked at the chemical equation for photosynthesis, it is this but reversed, and instead of ATP, we have light energy. So C6H12O6 plus 6 oxygen leads to 6 CO2 molecules, 6 water molecules, and energy. And the reverse is photosynthesis. So there are 3 stages to cellular respiration. The first is glycolysis. The second is the citric acid cycle, or we'll usually just call it the Krebs cycle, and then also the electron transport chain. So stage 1 is glycolysis. So glycolysis happens in the cytoplasm, so not in any specific organelle. Remember, our cell we have the cell membrane, cell wall on the outside, and on the inside we have cytoplasm, which fills the void of the cell and then has the organelles all throughout. Plants use the chloroplast for photosynthesis, and then animals and plants use mitochondria for cellular respiration. But this first stage, glycolysis, is not happening in the mitochondria, it's happening in the cytoplasm. So the key points is that during glycolysis, a glucose molecule right up there is split into 2 molecules of pyruvate. So glucose, we use 2 ATP to break that down and create 2 pyruvate at the end. This process yields a limited amount of ATP, again, that is cellular energy, and reduces an NAD plus to an NADH, which is an energy carrier. So both of these are important molecules that we use for cellular respiration. And again, up at the top, we did use 2 ATP, but we got 4. So we netted 2 ATP out of that first stage. Then we're going to move on to the Krebs cycle, aka the citric acid cycle. So here's our pyruvate coming in. And this is happening in the mitochondria. So we have gone from outside of the mitochondria in the cytoplasm into the mitochondria. So the citric acid cycle is a cyclic series of chemical reactions that generate more ATP and produce electron carriers, NADH and FADH2. So we have our pyruvate that goes in. We use NAD plus creates an NADH. And then we go through this system using more and more and more, and we end up with more ATP, which we get down at the bottom. Stage 3 is electron transport chain. So this occurs in the inner mitochondrial membrane. So within the mitochondria, there are more membranes going throughout. This is happening on that membrane. So NADH and FADH2 donate electrons to the electron transport chain. And this electron transfer creates a proton gradient across that inner mitochondrial membrane, which drives ATP synthesis, which means we are creating more ATP. So different plants live in different environments, which means they need to do things a little bit differently, which means that they adapt to their environment. So in response to varying environmental conditions, plants have evolved diverse adaptations to optimize their energy metabolism. And we're going to talk about 2 specific adaptations. one is C4 versus CAM. We may also talk about C3 a little bit. We're not going to talk about those adaptations in this lesson. Those are going to be their own focus, but those are two we will focus on. So in conclusion, cellular respiration breaks down glucose for energy. It's the essential process that enables plants to extract energy from glucose. It occurs in 3 stages. We have glycolysis, citric acid cycle, and electron transport chain. These stages work in sequence to maximize ATP production. And plants have unique adaptations related to energy production, and those adaptations ensure that plants can thrive in diverse environmental conditions. All right, let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you in the next one.